The decision theory. Every action of a manager is generally an outcome of a decision. Owing to this fact, Peter Drucker in his book, Practice of Management, observes that whatever a manager does, he does through making decision. It's true. The job of management involves the making of innumerable decisions. That is why many persons think that management is decision making. Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, classmates. I am tasked to discuss Chapter 5, which is about decision theory. Its introduction, types of decisions, the decision making process, and the different decision making models, and its pros and cons. So let's start with the introduction. Within the past decades, statisticians, mathematicians, and economists have developed a new field of learning, statistical decision theory, that has already found its way into use in a highly pragmatic business world. As might be expected, a genuine application of this decision theory involves many complexities and reasonably advanced computation techniques, but one can obtain a rough idea of its operation by considering a simplified example. A manufacturer deciding whether to introduce a new product. To make his decision, the manufacturer has to consider the likelihood of public acceptance of the product, the costs at which he can produce and sell it, the probable effects of the introduction of the product on the actions of his competitors, the possible loss he might suffer should the product fail compared to the rewards of success, and many other variables. Regardless of the complexity of the problem, the manufacturer has three courses of action open. First, he can produce the product. Second, not produce the product. Or third, spend more money and time on service and other studies that will further facilitate his decision. So what does decision theory mean? Decision theory involves the proper course of action to be taken by a decision maker who may gain or lose by taking action upon uncertain data that inconclusively support or discredit differing hypotheses about a state of the real but nonetheless unknowable world. In other words, it is a formalization of the problems involved in making optimal choices. In a certain sense, it incorporates operations research, theoretical economics, and wide areas of statistics, and among others. Decision theory is primarily concerned with helping people and organizations in making decisions. It provides a meaningful conceptual framework for important decision making. The decision making refers to the selection of an act from amongst various alternatives, the one which is judged to be the best under given circumstance. There are 7 important stages in decision making. First is identifying the decision. Try to clearly define the problem and realize that you need to make a decision out of it. Second is gathering relevant information. Collect some pertinent information before you make your decision. What information is needed, the best sources of information, and how to get it. Identifying the alternatives. In this step, you will list all possible and desirable alternatives. Number 4, identifying the evidences. As you go through this difficult internal process, you will begin to favor certain alternatives, those that seem to have a higher potential for reaching your goal. Finally, place the alternative in a priority order list. The 5th one is choosing among alternatives. Once you have weighed all the evidences, you are ready to select the alternative that seems to be the best one. Sixth is taking action. You're now ready to take some positive action by beginning to implement the alternative you choose in step 5. Number 7, and the last one, is reviewing your decision and its consequences. Consider the results of your decision and evaluate where or not it has resolved the need for identified in step 1. If the decision has not met the identified need, you may want to repeat certain steps of the process to make a new decision. The decision-making process consists of, first, the decision maker. The decision maker refers to individual or a group of individuals responsible for making the choice of an appropriate course of action amongst the available courses of action. In an organization, usually it is the top management who make or who are the decision makers. Second is the act or courses of action. Decision-making problems deals with the selection of a single act from a set of alternative acts. If two or more alternative courses of action occur in a problem, then decision-making is necessary to select only one course of action. Third is the event or states of nature. The events identify the occurrences which are outside of the decision maker's control and which determine the level of success for a given act. These events are often called states of nature. For example, an example of this one is the market demand for a particular item during a stipulated period of time. The fourth and the last one is the payoff. Payoff is the result of combinations of an act with each of the states of nature is the outcome, and monetary gain or loss of each such outcome is the payoff. This means that the expression payoff should be in a quantitative form. Payoff may be also in terms of cost saving or time saving. Types of decision making. Since decisions are made based upon the information data available about the occurrence of events as well as the decision situation, there are two types of decision-making situations. First is decision-making under certainty. In this case, the decision maker has the complete knowledge of consequence of every decision or choice with certainty. In this decision model, assumed certainty means that only one possible state of nature exists. Second is the decision making under uncertainty. Under conditions of uncertainty, only payoffs are known and nothing is known about the likelihood of each state of nature. Such situations arise when a new product is introduced in the market or a new plant is set up. Let's go now to the different decision-making models and their pros and cons. The first one is the rational model. Often cited as the classical approach, the rational model of decision-making is the most commonly used method and typically consists of the following steps: identification, gathering of information, analyzing, developing a range of options, evaluating, selecting an option, and acting decisively on that option. The rational model allows for an objective approach that's based on scientifically obtained data to reach informed decisions. This reduces the chance of errors and assumptions. It also helps to minimize the manager's emotions, which might have resulted in poor judgments in the past. The cons of the rational model is that sometimes constrained by insufficient information, which creates problems if a manager has to consider and then evaluate any alternatives they need to reach a decision. Time limitations can also be an issue. Since there's a lot of information needed, the necessary time for observation, collection, and analysis is also essential. In a fast-paced business environment where time is crucial, the rational model is somewhat limited. The second one is the intuitive model. Compared to the objective judgments by the rational model, the intuitive decision-making model is much less structured and opts for more subjective opinions. Though it's not simply based on gut feelings, rather, it takes into consideration the following. First is the pattern recognition. Second, similarity recognition. And third is the salience, or the understanding the importance of information and the way it can affect personal judgment. The pros of the intuitive model is that, compared by the rational model, intuitive decision-making allows for quick decisions to be reached, while a degree of gut feeling means managers can eliminate counterintuitive ideas when drawing conclusions. The cons of the intuitive model is that it leans heavily on a person's experience and judgment. As a result, emotions and insufficient experience may end up clouding judgment and make for poor, impulsive decisions. The third and the last one is the recognition primed model. It is a combination of the two models mentioned. The primed model of decision making begins when a manager quickly assesses a situation, compares it to past situations, and recognizes patterns and creates a mental action script which runs through the scenario up until its conclusion. The pros of the recognition prime model is that since rational and intuitive reasoning is used, it provides a degree of mental simulation from your predictions. So from here, you can prevent problems if they will arise because they've been played out mentally beforehand. The cons of the recognition prime model is that inexperienced managers may opt for this model when one of the other two models would be more appropriate in certain situations, such as for non-critical decisions. So to sum up my report, big or small, decisions can alter things at all levels. And the mark of any good manager is being able to make the right decision at the right time, even when circumstances aren't exactly ideal. Regardless of sector and industry, it's an important element of any management role, one that has the potential to impact employees and the direction a company might take going forward. Thank you, Mom. That ends my report.